I totally agree that probably before Christmas wasn't like the best time to do it because you were getting...
I had my boss at World Rugby who's French, and he was sort of keeping things under wraps for me until he came out in the media.
Yeah.
So he's come out in the media now, and I like everyone. I hadn't done anything in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then he finally did, and then sort of it's like, okay, you can do whatever you want now.
Yeah.
So.
How did you find all of it? Because I was like watching it unfold, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was nuts, but I kind of enjoyed the experience in terms of like the growth and the
Are you like someone that feeds off that negativity almost, and it's just
not the negativity,
not like
but like the challenge?
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so the negativity was pretty hard, but like the challenge, I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, I find it so interesting because I'm one of those people that if someone tells me like I can't do something or I'm not good enough, I'm like, well, I'm going to show you that I am.
Yeah.
So, and you strike me as someone that's like the complete same, so that's good. All right, we'll just get started and we'll just have a chat and see what happens. I do have like questions and stuff like to guide the interview, but I am like one of those people that just goes off on a tangent half the time. Like,
I'm sure Max will tell you the same. I just like to yarn. So
there's like a million things going on in my brain all the time, so I'm like, whoop, let's just do that.
Perfect, sounds good.
Okay, right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Toe the Line. Today I've got a very exciting guest, international rugby referee Ben O'Keefe. Ben, welcome to Toe the Line.
Thank you, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. I was just telling you before that my dad was a rugby referee before he went into the police, or like around the same time he was in the police. So he was very excited about this interview happening, and I just think you're an incredible referee and an incredible person, and I'm very excited to chat to you today.
Well, thank you. It's exciting to learn you got some refereeing genes in the family, so we might be able to get a whistle and some boots on the field for you pretty soon.
No. I'm so uncoordinated. I can't do two things at once. So me running up and down a sideline or in the middle, trying to blow a whistle at the same time, no, it's
you make it sound hard, but it's not as hard as that.
Oh, no, it will be. I make everything harder than it needs to be. So, and actually, if someone wants to hire me for just one game, and then it can be like a exhibition piece, and people can have a good laugh.
We should do it.
I think we should. Are you serious? Because I'll do it.
Oh, we'll work that out.
I'll do it for the fun.
We'll see how I go first this year,
okay.
Then.
Okay.
It's another season.
Okay, maybe you can train me up, and then we'll see how good I can be.
Pleasure.
Okay, wonderful. First question, probably the most important question. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm really good. Thanks, Taylor. I'm excited. As I sort of just mentioned then, it's the start of a new season. I've just come back from the UK with some Six Nations. I did some games up there, so
that
really good
fun.
Yeah, it was exciting. It's always good to cut your teeth in a Six Nations game. It's a different atmosphere up there, and Test matches always, like Test matches, they're challenging. I'm really excited to get back here. Super Rugby, the next sort of 3 months is always exciting with good weather, running rugby. Sort of summer footy comes
before
out
the grounds get wet and muddy.
Before you sort of get into that sort of northern hemisphere style of game. So, and I'm also excited. It's a new 4-year cycle. So we've just finished the World Cup, and to be able to start a new 4-year cycle, looking forward to the World Cup in Australia. Is exciting because I think there's some good changes that are going to happen in the game. Definitely.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about in terms of like the rugby world, but just in terms of you talking about Six Nations, do you find it like different to referee the different hemispheres? Because I know there's always so much chatter online about Southern Hemisphere referees refereeing one way and the Northern Hemisphere referees refereeing one way. How do you find it?
I think that's probably changed over the last maybe decade, where there probably was a difference in the style of refereeing between the two hemispheres, but also the style of game as well. I think what has happened over the last maybe 10 years, last 2 World Cup cycles, is we collaborate a lot between probably the top 20 referees in the world. We're constantly having meetings, talking about the game, recalibrating around how we make decisions. So the alignment, I think, is there. And then if I look at the style of rugby, I think that both hemispheres now are pretty similar in the way that they like to attack. There are certain situations in games where you'll be in the north and they'll want to scrum on the 5 metre, they'll want to maul from within the 22, but also you get that in the Rugby Championship as well. So I think the game's becoming a lot more tighter, and we saw that at the last World Cup where we had a lot of teams who could really compete in quarters, semis and finals. We had some games that were only decided by one or 2 points. So I think the differences that were probably there beforehand are getting a lot closer.
Yeah, for sure. We've got ahead of ourselves, which I always do. But before we get into any more ref stuff, can you talk us through a little bit of your childhood? What was like your school life like growing up? What were you like interested in? What were you passionate about? All that sort of stuff. As much as you're willing to share.
A few years ago now, so I'll just try and remember. But look, I'm a Marlborough boy. Grew up in Blenheim. I went to Marlborough Boys College there, and oldest of 3 children. So got a younger brother, younger sister, and we grew up. We loved it. It was an amazing small town to be in because you could really play any type of sport you wanted. I remember, we'd rush home. Mum would have spaghetti bolognese for dinner, and then we'd rush back out for training after school again. So we really loved that. It was really easy to get around. Like we'd bike to all the trainings and stuff. So I enjoyed growing up there, and it wasn't probably until then. So I did my schooling there, and then went to university down Dunedin, studied medicine down there. And that's probably where I started my refereeing. I grew up playing rugby. I started actually playing football with my brother.
Oh yeah.
So I think my parents, they decided whether or not it was they wanted us to get better coordinated using a football. No, we didn't do that. We started with that, and I wanted to start playing rugby with all my friends. So about the age of 10, 11, I started playing, and I had quite a massive growth spurt when I was about 10. I was probably like this tall.
Oh no way.
So I was quite tall, and it meant that when I was playing age group rugby, I was one of the biggest guys on the field, and I could just run sort of straight, and I'd be able to do all right. And I guess the unfortunate thing is it meant that I didn't sort of learn any of the skills of fending, sidestepping. I sort of used my height.
Just run it straight.
I ran it straight, and that lasted for a few years until everyone else sort of started catching up with me in terms of their height. Shit. And then I started getting pushed further out from. I played sort of 12, 13, so second 5 centre. Then I got pushed further back out to sort of the wing and then to the bench. So that was. I
don't know what I'm doing here.
I quickly realised that my I guess limelight was back probably under 10s, 11s, 12s, and then I went to university, trialled for a team there, and that's probably when I decided that probably playing, I just fell out of love with it. And I was lucky. My dad he refereed club rugby in Blenheim. Yeah. So I'd play for Harlequins in the morning, and then we'd just be down at Lansdowne Park,
cool.
The whole day, getting ready for his game in the afternoon, and I'd just be there watching. Sometimes I'd be the ball boy, and even sometimes I'd ball boy Marlborough Red Devil games, and then I also got a job at Lansdowne Park doing the scoreboard.
Oh no way!
So I was sort of rugby was a big part.
So it's always kind of being
part of our Saturdays. Cool. And it was all about getting some hot chips, a can of Coke after the game. I was happy. So I never watched Dad in terms of this is something I want to do when I'm older. It was just me being part of the game. So when he suggested, when I was about 19, my second year at uni, that you should start refereeing. That's when I realised that a little bit like yourself, refereeing's kind of in the blood. It's in the family. So
I'm not sure that got handed down to me. Do you think, is your dad one of those ex-referees who will still referee games from his couch, or is he not like that?
No, I think everyone that picks up the whistle, and probably all their immediate family, sees the game a little bit differently now. I know that. Whenever I watch a game, I kind of referee it from where I am. It doesn't mean I shout at the TV, but I'm just looking at the game from my point of view, how I'd referee. And I think that if you're refereeing club rugby, or you refereed 20 years ago, you still kind of watch games like that. Yeah. And I know that I've probably ruined it for my close friends and family, because they watch a game, they probably watch the referee the whole time now instead of looking at the players, which is a bit of a shame for them, because there's some awesome games on.
That's funny. Yeah, my dad is one because he's still. I think he knows most of the new kind of laws and stuff, but he'll see something and I'll be like, no, Dad, that's not a thing anymore. It's changed.
Well, I don't know if this you can let me know, but I often go to meetings and they can continually ask about what are we going to do about players in front of the kicker. Back in my day, we fed the ball straight at the scrum. So
back in my day, right?
All those types of things. But the laws change constantly. They're changing all the time, which. I think that's one thing we need to try and change is make them more constant for the players and for the spectators who are watching it, so they understand as well. So,
do you think across the board, when I say across the board, I mean for yourself as a referee, for players, the teams, for higher ups, and for fans, do you think the constant law changes can be, one, confusing, but two, frustrating, and kind of just makes it a bit harder to watch for people and to play and to ref?
I think all those things you just mentioned, Taylor, because we're trying to create a game that people love to watch, showcases the skills of the players, is easy to interpret for referees as well, and I think what we're trying to do is actually make a game that has all of that, and it takes some time. And I think the tweaks
I think
the tweaks over the last maybe 10 years have allowed that. It's just the growing pains of every year changing it to a point where I think we're close to now. A game that is easy for all of those things. I don't think we're quite there yet, the tweaks hopefully are going to be less disruptive on the style of play that I guess is being played at the moment.
Yeah, for sure, no, definitely. I want to talk a little bit about your time in med school, because I find that so interesting that you kind of chose refereeing over like studying in med school and stuff. But can you talk us through what kind of made you want to go into med school and kind of how studying was? And then, because I know that you were reffing at the same time as you were at med school, so what was that like? And was it like a turning point where you're like, no, I want to really pursue refereeing?
Yeah, there were. So I think in sixth form at Marlborough Boys College you have to choose like what your subject's going to be. Maybe it's fifth form, I can't remember, but you choose whether you sort of go down that sort of English, social sciences, or you do sort of the sciences.
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt, but as soon as I could choose, I was like, get the science out of there, get the maths out of there. I'm not a book person.
Yeah, well,
I'm street smart, but not book smart.
I'm kind of the same, but I just decided to go down the sciences. I don't know. I kind of like what do I think? What did I want to do when I was older? I could see myself being a doctor. Don't ask me why. I didn't know. I didn't until after I graduated. There was no doctors in my family.
Yeah.
But then my actually granddad was a GP who passed away. My dad was young, so I never knew that was a case until I graduated and sort of thought, okay, at least it's not such a fluke that I became a doctor. But sort of chose that, and then went to med school and just studied there, and I just loved it. I loved the idea of you're obviously learning a skill, learning a craft, helping people. Yeah. Which you don't actually realise until after you leave med school and you start working in a hospital.
Yeah.
But for me, refereeing, it was just an outlet. So, you work pretty hard in your first year. So I didn't do any rugby because I was just stuck in my book studying, trying to get in. And then once I got in, it was just that fine balance of head down in the classroom. But you needed that release. You needed that time outside. It's like a hobby, something that can take your mind off, the focus that you're doing during the week. So for me, refereeing was an outlet because I loved rugby, obviously grew up with it. And then I graduated and got a full-time job working in Wellington. And at that time it was really good because I'd done about five years in Dunedin Club Rugby. And the benefit of Dunedin Club Rugby, it was a really, really high standard. Yeah. A lot of the top
What a place to referee though. Holy crap. That's like elite. Dunedin Club Rugby is like where it's at, I reckon.
It's really good. Like I'd put it up there. All the different, I guess, cities in New Zealand have a different style of game. Yeah. And I guess for me coming through, like I was quite young. It was a really fast game. Obviously a lot of young university students. Got to referee at Carisbrook, got to referee at the new Forsyth Bar when it was just built. So
how cool.
There were some really cool memories for me. But still at this point, it was never like a future goal for me. It was just something that, helped me find the balance. Yeah. And it allowed me because a lot of the top referees, maybe like the players as well, were in Auckland and Christchurch and Wellington. So I got to referee at a club level, Premier club grade quite early.
And you were given that space to do it because they were all based in the other centres.
Exactly. So, I could learn my craft really quickly and I was sort of away from all the selectors so you could, make all your mistakes down in Dunedin. And so it came perfectly the time I graduated, moved to Wellington. I'd had about 5-6 years of Premier Club Rugby and just like players, you need experience at that level to then go to the next. Yeah. So I was able to referee a different style of rugby in Wellington and I absolutely loved it. And that was probably the time I started getting picked up by national selectors. Yeah. So like players, you'll get picked up at rep level in your region, under 18s, Colts. Then you do Heartland Rugby and I started refereeing in BC. And I loved it and I sort of transitioned. I realised early on that I loved medicine in terms of what I was doing, but I didn't like the actual medical side of it. I really loved surgery. Yeah. So postgraduate, you have to do 2 years of a bit of everything. Right. So did my time doing a little bit of general practice, did general medicine, general surgery. And then
did you enjoy that, like being hands-on and stuff?
Yeah, I did. I think it was really a nice transition because at med school, you work on cadavers, you work in the clinics, you're doing. It's not actually until you're in the hospital where you actually feel like a real doctor. Yeah. And I did my emergency department placement in my second year, and you do move through probably doing a lot of note taking, rewriting medical charts for your first 2 years, and then it wasn't until I did emergency medicine, ED, where I felt like a real doctor. It was decision making. Obviously, I had a lot of support, but you were making the decisions. You're running it by your seniors, and people were getting better or worse based on those decisions that you're making. You actually felt like you had a responsibility, and I love that. And then I moved and did, realizing that I love surgery. I did a lot of plastic surgery.
I'm going to have to talk to you after this about some stuff. But anyway, keep going.
Well, I mean, and like I love the ability to I like the idea of like being able to fix something, being really good at something. And I worked for the plastic surgeons in Wellington in Hutt Hospital, and they were just incredible.
Are you
they were
kidding?
fantastic. No.
Around what year?
So I think
This is so...
2000, it would have been 2014, 15.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so funny because I had a suit. I'll talk to you about it afterwards. Anyway, keep going.
Might be a little connection there.
Keep going.
But I love that, and so I was doing a lot of my work, Monday to Friday, and then I moved into ophthalmology because I loved eyes. You sort of progress through, what you enjoy, because you go to med school and you learn the bookwork of plastic surgery, of general practice. You learn about all these different types of conditions.
So you really work across like all of it, really.
You do, but you don't understand what type of specialty you like until you're actually doing the job.
Yeah.
So I really fell in love eventually with ophthalmology, doing eyes. I feel like you can really make a difference with people's vision. They take it for granted until something goes wrong with it, and then they can come in and they can actually talk to you, and you can talk about their day, and then go on to talking about their eye rather than working in ICU or in the hospital where they're in their hospital bed. So that's the type of stuff that I loved, and so continued rugby, working Monday to Friday. And I think you asked me like when did I sort of
at what point did you kind of had that switch where you're like, okay, now I'm going to pursue riffing?
Well, there's kind of been 2 points in my life when that's been really important for me. Like one, like the most recent sort of intersection crossroads, which we'll talk about soon. But that first point was I was doing ophthalmology, and so you'd work Monday to Friday in the hospital, and it's busy. It's 7 in the morning to 5,
Long
6,
hours.
7, 8 at night. You finish when the last person's seen. So I'd do that Monday to Friday. Friday I'd fly, and I was starting to do Super Rugby. So you'd start doing ARing Super Rugby, then I'd start refereeing Super Rugby, and it meant that I'd be away either here or over in Australia for a Saturday game, for example. So Monday to Friday you're working, Friday flying, Saturday game, Sunday come home, back into hospital Monday, and then obviously Monday to Friday again, but doing the reviews of your game, training so you're fit for the game. And then
did you thrive in that environment? Was it hard to keep it all up?
I loved it. I really did. I've sort of done it my whole life, so it was something that was very used to me. You had to get very good at being organised, but it did get to a point where I think I was flying up here for a game, maybe here or maybe at Eden Park. It was Friday, I was doing a clinic. And the clinic, was going overtime because there was a lot of emergencies that came in, a lot of patients that needed to be seen, and I ended up having to miss my flight. I got to a point, I think it was a semi-final, got to a point where I realised that day that, okay, I missed my flight, but I ended up getting on a flight, but I was rushed the next day. I just realised that, okay, this is not great. Firstly, for the clinic that I was, involved in, but also the preparation and mindset for the game that I needed to be really on for the next day. Because
you've got to, they're two very, in completely different ways, but two very, high pressure situations where you've got to show up fully as yourself, 100% as, an optometrist, and then also, refereeing as well. You've got, a lot of different people that rely on you to do your job.
You're totally right. They're both full-time jobs in a different sense in terms of how you prepare. You got to be mentally in the right space. You got to make really good decisions. You can't be under pressure. So all of those things, and I was just fortunate that around that time, New Zealand Rugby had a sort of a contract available. They offered me a full-time contract, and I thought a lot of my colleagues, they either take a year off to travel overseas because they'd be stuck in medicine their whole life. I thought, look, I'll give this a go for a year, see 100%. How long it lasts for. But also still work, on my medicine in the background. And I remember that conversation I had with my head of department at the time. It took me about 3 or 4 weeks with this contract sitting there to actually, have the courage to go and talk to them about it. So I was nervous.
I hate confrontation and everything.
And I don't know if it was going to... so at the end, it wasn't confrontation at all. It really helped me, and I think, helped me on the path that I'm on now. Is this doctor, she sat down and I told her my situation, and she really supported it and said that, look, anytime obviously you're back home during the week, we need your help, so we'll get you back into the hospital so you can continue your skills. And it allowed me to sort of commit full-time, sort of switch and do full-time rugby, but also do the medicine on the side, which really helps me again, kind of like what I did in med school, was have that break and have that that change away from rugby the whole time.
So what year was that when you just chose to do rugby refereeing full time?
So that would have been I guess like maybe 2016.
Wow.
But like I was still probably doing, 2-3 days a week in the hospital in the off season between November and February, working pretty much full time. And it hasn't really been probably until the last 2 years where I've mainly pulled right back and doing one clinic a week or a virtual clinic a week, which is really good. So I'm still keeping my hand in it, which is fun.
Yeah, that is so crazy to me, because 2012 was like a pretty big year for you in terms of like breakout, in terms of like rugby refereeing. Like you went from refereeing like club games to refereeing like more high performance games, and you're still like full-time doing like med school and stuff. What was it like, I guess I'm just so curious, because like there's so high pressure environments, like both of them, and I just would love to know how you like dealt with it.
Well, I think I had a lot of my colleagues who they all had something outside of the medicine that they did. They had family. I had a lot of friends who liked surfing. They'd go skiing, so they had their hobby. My hobby was just rugby. And what has always helped me, I think, refereeing, is that I've been able to have my focus, or my main primary job was medicine at the time, and it meant that my passion and my hobby was rugby. So I could actually mentally go out there and I just enjoyed it. I worked hard because I wanted to be good at it.
Yeah.
But I think that mindset around enjoying something for the life of it, rather than actually being a job kind of mindset, really helped. And that balance really helped me, perform during the week in the hospital, because you're under pressure on the rugby field. You have to make quick decisions. You have to use your communication to talk with players. We have to do the same thing in the hospital. So vice versa, both jobs really complemented each other.
100%. So 2016, you refereed your first international match, which was Samoa versus Georgia.
Yep.
What was that like? Like, what were you doing? What were you like preparing and stuff? Like, did you prepare any different? Were you just like in the mindset of, it's like another game, I'm just going to do it?
Well, I'm always nervous before games. I think it's important to be nervous.
I get nervous to watch. I'm like, I'm not even playing.
Yeah, well, imagine refereeing your first test match. But it was exciting. Like I prepare really well during the week. I've done a lot when I was younger around trying to work on my game, my blueprint, and I'm trying to always develop every year. So when I prepare really well during the week, it gives me confidence on the Saturday to go out and go, look, I've done all I can. I back my decision making. I back the pictures that I'll see in front of me. Yes, there'll be a few things that I've never seen before, but I can react to that. Uncontrollables. Yeah. But what I can control, I've done during the week, and it just gives me confidence on the Saturday. So I remember before that game, first test match, Samoa v Georgia in Samoa. Had a great week over in Samoa. Like the travel, the experience.
There are worse places to have your first international match.
And that's what I like about when you referee. You travel either by yourself or with maybe two assistant referees or a teamo. So it's a small group. So you can actually manage how you want to prepare during the week. So
with those other
exactly. So I'll know that I need to do X amount of field sessions, X amount of gym sessions, some video work. I can actually decide the time that I do it, compared to probably teams where it's like told, this is where you're going to do it all. So it just allows you to sort of see a bit of the where you're traveling to, and I think that sort of helps you just enjoy and be in the moment as well. And so look, it was a 21-all draw. I remember the game. One of the cardinal rules about refereeing is that you should never end a game in a draw, but it was just one of those games where actually the style of both teams, it was probably a fair result, because it was just such a combative game. Like these big Georgians versus the big Samoan fast players, fast game. So it was excellent, but it was nice because it gave me the confidence to realise that I can referee this level of rugby.
You can do it,
and that's what you do. You get an experience as an assistant referee on the sideline, and you go into the middle at Super Rugby. Then you go on the sideline for internationals, and then you go into the middle in test matches. So it was a cool experience. And then sort of the other games just kept rolling on pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. In terms of intensity, from going to like Super Rugby level to that first test match, was there like quite a difference in intensity? Was it kind of just the same?
I think the intensity changes from game to game. Like, you might get a game in Super Rugby which is just, non-stop running. Maybe 8 or 9 tries scored in the game. And actually, as a referee, you don't really have to do much. You can sort of sit back and, the skills of the player are so high that, there's no knock-ons, there's no scrums, there's no resets, and you can just, go with the flow. You get some games like this and other games, and not necessarily just test matches, but can be Super Rugby games as well, where you're in the game a lot more. You're close to the ruck. You're either managing players or you're penalising players for hands or telling them to release. You got multiple resets. You're trying to work out, okay, who's causing the issue at the scrum. So, there are a lot of games that actually pull you in. And scoreboard pressure does that as well. You might get a game where the last 10 minutes there's only 1 point in it. So, you sort of get pulled into that too. So, you don't really know until you probably start the game what type of game it's going to be. And it ebbs and flows, like the first 10 minutes can be really open, then it might get really tight for the last 20.
Do you ever get bored during a game?
No, like there's always even when I guess like nothing, you might think nothing's happening or it's a really exciting game, like you're always like your mind's always going. Even at like after a try's been scored, when there's 90 seconds, I just put in the ball on the tee, I'm constantly thinking about, okay, what's happened in the last 20 minutes, what am I in control of, what do I need to work on, what's the penalty count, I'll be talking to my ARs, what are you guys seeing? So you're working hard for the whole 80, half time as well, whole 80 minutes, and then after the game you have a hot debrief around what you've seen, and then that's probably when you can finally relax.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like your riffing career kind of catapulted like quite quickly, like over the last few years, like even just the last few years, you've been riffing at a high level, Super Rugby, Rugby Championship, Six Nations, Rugby World Cup. What are kind of some highlights for you over the past few years where you've been like, wow, like if only 19 or 20-year-old Ben could like see me now?
Yeah, like I feel so grateful for what I've been able to achieve and do in rugby. I think that first time I had to decide whether I was going to leave medicine to do rugby.
Were you scared to do that?
Oh, I definitely was, but because I didn't know what it was going to give me, I didn't know what it meant. Looking back on what I've done now, and I plan to go on for many, many more years, but even just looking back from this point now, the people I've met, the experiences I've had, the challenges I've had, the places I've been to, like I'd never change that for the world. Like it's been so incredible. So I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity. And just to be involved in some big games like 2 World Cups, the last World Cup in France, like that was an important experience for me because I did an exchange when I was France when I was younger. So for me it was like a full circle, because again I didn't know I was going to be refereeing in France at a World Cup. So when I was 16 in France, just sort of trying to learn the language, little Ben didn't realise that he was going to be using it when he was older. So there's the Japan versus Scotland, doing a host nation at the last World Cup in Japan, refereeing a Lions series. But even like some of the biggest experiences I've had is refereeing in Shannon, like just north of where I lived in club rugby, or doing games like that where it's club rugby. You have a beer afterwards, some devilled sausages, and the captains have a speech. So it's all those experiences wrapped up, I guess, on the field, and then all the stuff off the field as well is pretty amazing. Yeah,
no, that's cool. I guess on the flip side of that, what are kind of like some of the negatives over the past few years that you've kind of been like that's not how I thought that would go, or just like things that you've kind of looked back on and been like, that wasn't like ideal for me?
Look, I mean, I've accepted a lot of where the game is at the moment, and I'm doing some of the biggest games in the world now, Test matches, Super Rugby. I've refereed for a long time now, so we always say in the refereeing circles that the longer you referee, the more nations or the more teams are going to sort of be disappointed or not like that referee, because you just do so many games, and there's always perceived injustices against teams, or even errors which we do make against teams. So I know, like, for one thing, like there are certain times in games where I've made bad decisions, and like I really kick myself after the game when that happens, and I review it, and I specifically try and work on, okay, I can't ever make that type of mistake again. And I've talked about it before, but I remember red carding Marika Korobeti in the Australia-France July series, and I thought at the time that it was a strong decision because World Rugby were telling us that we needed to be tougher on foul play, but in the review we found out that it was wrong, and I remember like emailing Dave Rennie at the time and let them know that, look, okay, I made a poor error here. But the benefit from that is that
just to touch on that, do you think it's hard, like, for people in your position where you're getting told one thing from like World Rugby, like you got to be really like stricter with like these sort of things, and then you get to a game situation, you're like, yep, this is what World Rugby are telling you to do, and then you look back and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't like the right thing, like having those different voices in your head? Yeah,
I learnt early on that you couldn't just keep adjusting to everything that they were saying. Like, it's you got to obviously take on board, but it's about almost trying to decipher, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean for the game? What does this actually mean for when I referee on the field? Because like as one of the leading referees, I need to actually, I'm with World Rugby, I'm with SANZAAR. When we make rule changes, I want to actually showcase that. So, I'm sort of showing that, okay, the referees are on board. But it is always difficult to actually work out, okay, what does this actually mean on the field? Because there's no tackles the same, no active foul play is the same. We might show a clip of, okay, this needs to be a red card. But there's always slight differences on the field. So how you referee it live is always something that I've gotten better at understanding and working to. In the last few years, and I think that's what you get better at deciphering. Okay, what do you actually need to do in the game? So that's always difficult. Like when you make an error, but I do such a good review that hopefully I'll never make those again. And then I guess the other thing is just over probably the last 5 years is just all the social media and the abuse that you get, and I think that's obviously something that we're all on board, players, coaches, referees, in terms of trying to create a better environment for the game we love.
Definitely. I guess staying kind of on the same length for social media, 9 times out of 10 referees, including yourself, there's always going to be one team along with their fans that just isn't going to like you or agree with you or have something mean to say, especially in those high pressure games, like for example the Super Rugby final last year or the quarter final with France and
South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa. One pointer. How do you deal with that sort of like negativity in person, like at the stadiums and stuff, but then also on social media as well?
Yeah, look, I think the easy thing is just to not be on social media, but like our generation,
hard not to as well.
It's hard not to. Like I enjoy it. I like to share what the life is like to be a referee. I like to be in touch with friends and family as well, and it's a way we communicate and use as a tool as well. So I think it's just a part of our daily lives at the moment. Look, we as referees, we don't need to be liked. We're not there to be liked in the game. We're actually there to do our job, be respected by the players, and we'll show them the same respect back. And I think that's what we need in the game. So we understand that fans are going to be passionate about their team. I'm passionate about the teams that I love to support. In football or like the All Blacks in New Zealand, like the Olympics. So passion's good. I think that we're moving to is
fine line,
there's a line that's definitely been crossed lately, and I think that we've seen examples of it. I'm really proud that referees we're sort of standing up for ourselves as well as players are, because they get the same, and coaches too. So that's where I think working together over the next wee while, the next few years, we can really sort of start to combat that and just move back to enjoying the game that we love, enjoying rugby, and knowing that we're going to make mistakes. We do as referees. We don't go out there to intentionally make mistakes. We don't go out there to intentionally cause a team to lose. So a lot of it is just around understanding that, and I think when we get the game laws and the understanding and the education out there around what we're doing a little bit better, then it's all going to help too. So I don't think it's just completely one-sided. I think we need to, as referees, work hard to do some things to make it easier to understand as well. And I think we start doing all these small things that will make it better. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. With different competitions, like for example Super Rugby, what does a typical week in your life look like from Monday through to the end of the weekend on Sunday?
All right, so typical Super Rugby week.
I'm very curious about this as well. I've always wanted to know.
well, refereeing it's not your 9 to 5 sort of typical job. So we would follow something similar to probably what teams do. And so if we've got a game, so for example, I get a game this weekend, Drua versus the Blues up in Whangarei. So Saturday, so we'll leave. Or normally if I had to fly, so would be flying Friday, do the game Saturday, come back Sunday.
Yeah.
So Monday, Tuesday, if we go the week before a game, would normally be reviews from the game before. And a typical game review where I look at the decisions that I've made, the non-decisions, the decisions I should have made that I didn't, my errors, looking through the set piece, the line-out. That might take between probably maybe 3 to 4 hours of slowly going through the game, clipping, so making short notes with
going
video,
back over clips and
going over it, timing my stability at the scrum. That might take a good wee while. I'll have a coach that will do the same thing. So then we'll have a call Monday afternoon. And we'll go over the game, and also we should be quite aligned with the review. If we're not, then we've got some more discussion points. On the Tuesday,
does that happen often or no?
I'm pretty. It doesn't happen too often, but from a point of view, they might come from a different perspective around game relevance or understanding. So we'll have a good discussion around something. But I'm pretty critical around how I'll probably find more stuff in my game that I needed to think about than they would. But that's just who I am really, and trying to be better.
Yeah.
Tuesday would get a full team review with all the Super Rugby referees, so we'll go through all the games during the week. Wednesday I'd normally probably be down with the Hurricanes, so we train with a Super Rugby team.
Cool.
So every professional referee does that.
Yeah.
So I can't referee the Hurricanes, I can't TMO, I can't be the assistant referee.
The whole season?
The whole season.
Right.
So, and I've done that for this is my third year with them now, so I'll be down with them. It's a time for me to be able to train with them. So they'll do their unit sessions in the morning, they'll do their live sessions in the afternoon where I'm running around with them.
Yeah.
It's a good chance for them to...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's an incentive New Zealand Rugby's done for the last few years to try and, I guess, like two ways help us train. Because otherwise we can only really train and do our job on the Saturday in the game. So it's really been beneficial for us, and I think beneficial for the teams, understanding, okay, they've got a resource in camp with them who wants them to win, is trying to support them. How can we be better at the ruck?
Wow.
This setup that we're doing at the line out to Moore, was this legal?
Yeah.
A lot of teams around the world are doing it now. We've seen France do it, England do it, Ireland, South Africa. So I think it's been really beneficial, and I put maybe a percentage of the success of Super Rugby teams in New Zealand down to it, but hopefully we can make a little bit more. So Wednesday will be that, and then Thursday, I'll probably have a bit of a chill day, and then Friday travel. So obviously with that, we're training, gym,
we'll get into training,
field session, and then I'll be doing a lot of mental skills around prepping myself for the game around how I read the tackle, how I read the scrum, how I read the ruck, and then like game day. So another thing we've done in New Zealand, which I think is really good, is that we have the same assistant referees and TMO for the whole competition. Yeah. So I think probably 5 years ago, we used to turn up on the Friday, meet our assistant referees for the first time. Well, people would know, but you'd have to talk to them about, okay, look, I want you to stand here at the line out. This is what I kind of do differently. Call not straights. Yeah. Whereas now I've got the same assistant referees that I had for the last 2 years now. They know how I referee. They know what I look like when I'm under pressure. They know when they can come in and help me. They know their core roles. So we can talk about really, really detailed things week to week to week. And
how beneficial is that for you?
It's incredibly beneficial for me.
You guys get to really know each other and stuff, and like the different quirks of refereeing styles and stuff.
Exactly. You're totally right. And I think it has a massive benefit for the game as well, because you get 4 referees basically on the field, or 3 on the field, 1 in the box. Really working in unison for the game. So their communication's really good. Their expectation of the decisions that need to be called are really consistent. And I think you see that in a lot of the games that we do in Super Rugby with the Kiwi teams, and we've just started doing it at a test level as well. And I think again you're seeing the benefit. So we'd do that. So we'd meet. We'd have a discussion on the Friday before the game around what we've talked about, if there's anything new during the week, some key focuses for the game the next day, and then in the morning on the Saturday before we. So after we do a little bit of a gym session, but we actually have a video session around, okay, put some, we'll be in a hotel room and we put it on the big screen on the TV, here's a tackle, what do we do? Is this a yellow card? Is it a red card? How do we discuss it?
So you're all kind of in unison with what's going to happen.
We role play basically as if we were on the field doing it. So hopefully then what you see is that when we have a TMO scenario situation live, we all know what we're doing. Yeah. My assistant referees know how to challenge me if they think I'm wrong, and also the TMO knows when to come in as well. So we should be humming, and I know we're humming by the time we get into a game, and fingers crossed we don't need to use it, but we're ready if we need to.
Yeah, no, for sure. You touched a little bit on your training and gym schedule. Can you run us through what you do for your training? You touched on-field stuff with the Hurricanes. What is your training week like?
So in season, off season's great. You just sort of you're doing a lot of summer stuff like long runs and just enjoying yourself. Where when you're in season, you run in a game about 8 kilometres, and you might do.
I have to power walk. I don't run. Someone could literally hold a gun to my head and said, "Run or I'll shoot you." I've had a good life. Just
we the 8 kilometres are kind of it's a slow over 8 minutes. So we do a lot of walking, but we might do 10 to 20 accelerations, decelerations in the game. So we have a GPS unit on telling us all that detail. So we try and replicate that sort of load during the week, kind of like what players do as well.
Is it roughly around like the same for game? Like obviously I know games can like be different, but is it roughly around the same in terms of like your accelerations, decelerations, all that sort of stuff?
It's pretty similar. The accels, decels might be a little bit different. The overall total distance run is pretty similar,
so
and
it's relatively easy to like keep training for consistently.
And if you did say 9 kilometers one game, you might go, okay, was it at the game, or actually was I overrunning? Was I out of position? So that's the type of detail you get from the GPS, and you'll just try and replicate that. I like to do it on a Wednesday. Where I'll do a lot of sort of interval running, so Bronco style testing that we do, so 20, 40, 60 metres, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and that sort of acceleration stuff. And I kind of like to do it, so I'll do my field session, but I like to play squash, and I think that sort of covers my change of direction. I like to sort of mix it up with some sort of sports as well, which I think is fun. And then the gym work, like, I mean, there's a few of us that are quite big, referees, you've got some big muscles, but I've sort of moved on from that. I just, we do a lot of sort of weights in terms of injury prevention.
Conditioning type
Conditioning,
stuff.
a lot of Achilles and calf injuries
I bet.
Older referees, so something I'm trying to get good at. I can't touch my toes. I'm trying to
work
on my feet. I never have been able to.
That's shocking.
I know, it's really bad. I always say it's because it's down to my speed, but I've lost the speed now and I still can't touch my toes, so I don't know.
Oh my God, we need to get you doing yoga or something.
I know. I've been working hard, and my trainer's been working hard on that. So all those things. It's about like longevity. We don't have to make the tackles, but we do need to, I guess, sort of be the middle distance runner. And ultimately be able to, within the last 5 minutes, make a really clear, accurate decision after you've run that 8 kilometres, after you're pretty fatigued. Still need to have a clear mind and be fit enough to be able to make those accurate calls, which, in that sort of money time, in the last 10 minutes of a game, are the most important. It doesn't matter what you did in the first 70 minutes, you've got to be accurate in the last 10.
I've always find that super interesting, because it's always been said that, like, for a team like the Crusaders, for example, they're very dangerous around that last 10 of the first half and first 10 of the second half. Do you get, like, is that kind of around those times where you've really got to, like, zone in and be like, okay, now I've got to really be on it, or are you just like that the whole time? Well,
you're kind of like that the whole time, because there's always, you don't want to be surprised, like a decision could happen in front of you, and like you can't be like, okay, watch this happen. You do have to be focused, but definitely I think in the last 10 minutes, especially when there's scoreboard pressure, there's a tight game, you just want to be good. You just want to be, you just want to make sure that the winner of this game is the team that should win, rather than you've missed a decision, because you don't want to make an error in the last 10 minutes, but also you don't want to miss a decision that you needed to have made. So we're not afraid of giving a penalty in the last play of the game if it's deserved. What we don't want to do is decide the game on an error. So I think you probably do ramp up a little bit as a referee, like you focus all the time, but you ramp up. You might be a little bit closer to the ruck. You are aware of what the time, the score is, and you just have to be there and just do your job. So it definitely comes with experience. I've had many games where you felt that pressure in the last sort of 10 minutes. Super Rugby finals, playoffs, World Cup playoffs, so they make you better at understanding, okay, what is your role here in this last 10 minutes?
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of game awareness, when you're in those really like high pressure situations like Rugby World Cup playoffs or Super Rugby finals, and there's a really tight scoreline, are you making yourself aware that there's a really tight scoreline, or are you just not focused on the score and you're like, I'm just focused right here on what's happening in front of me?
I mean, I think you kind of know it in the background, but it doesn't play into anything. You just what it really does for me is go, okay, this is a tight game, like, be accurate, like, be good, like, make sure these decisions are correct.
This would be a good time to be really onto it.
But I mean, even when it's 20 points, so a team's 20 points ahead, you're trying to do the same thing. But I think, as a referee, you are taking information all over the place around, okay, what does this mean in terms of the game? What's the best decision to make at this moment? You actually feel the players change a little bit, like they understand they know what the score is. They change their tactics in terms of trying to hold on to the ball, so you do have to referee something different. So if they're 20 points ahead, they'd throw the ball a bit more, but if they're setting up for a drop kick, they might be doing a lot of sort of one-off rucks, and you're watching, making sure they're not sealing.
And you can sense that, and you're like, okay, let's.
You can definitely sense that. The communication might ramp up from the players. It might actually go away completely because of the pressure. So they're interesting times that happen in games.
Nice. Speaking about kind of like, we've spoken a little bit about like the negative side of the job. Is there anything that you do like to keep your mental health in check? Are there like support systems around you that you use, like if you're having a bit of a rough week, or talk us through like the mental side of it?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of the game, I think, for players as well as referees.
Yeah.
We're well supported with New Zealand Rugby.
Yeah.
We have a mental skills assist that works with us every week, and
Yeah.
we talk to them about how we're feeling post-game, how do we prepare for games, and a lot of it for me is, like I've said before, is around confidence, so preparing well, be confident in the game. Part of that for me is playing golf the day before. It's just a bit of a break for me. I know that if I've prepared really well, I can walk onto a golf course on the Friday before a game and just relax, and I'll be walking and I'll be thinking about the game, but also I'll hit a bad shot and I've just got to go, cool, dump it, move on to the next, and it's good practice for the game the next day as well. It's it's a big part, and then during the game referees have a bit of a mantra in terms of if they're in a moment where they've seen on the big screen they've made a bad decision, or they have a player coming at them putting under pressure.
Is it quite confronting?
Yeah, it can be. So you've got to work out ways to be able to deal with it. Our job is to be able to control those heated situations.
Yeah.
And for me, I have just a bit of a mantra. I tell myself, just trust and enjoy.
Yeah.
And I know that if I've made a decision I'm not sure about, I just tell myself, trust you're right, enjoy the game. And that allows me to move on to the next job, because often you see on the big screen, or you see a replay, or a player comes up to you about a decision and you might not be 100% sure. Whenever that's happened to me, I've found out that when I've done my review, 9 times out of 10 I've actually been correct. Yeah. So in the game, I've learned to say, okay, just trust that.
Learning to trust yourself.
90% of the time you're right, so just don't let that affect your next decision, which will then mean that you start snowballing and you start making error upon error, because you're thinking about that potential error you made in the first 20 minutes, which you got right. So
yeah, has that trusting yourself gotten easier over time, or are you still trying to battle with that sort of like, do I listen to the player right now, or do I like trust myself in the moment?
It's definitely gotten easier just through experience. Like I feel like I understand my game really well. I understand the game of rugby that's in front of me really well. So I do make less errors now, but I never get complacent about it, because the game's always changing, and I know that every weekend, and that's the thing, I always, like a Friday night before a Saturday game, I'll get to like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. on the Friday, and I'll go, okay, this time tomorrow night I would have done the game, and something would have happened.
I
you just don't know.
Same thing for like anything big in my life. I'll like be the night before and like, this time tonight I would have done it. It's just going to be fine. It's all going to be over.
I know. So you have that, before before every game you kind of like that. So, but overall everything is fine. Like if you've prepared well, you do all the controllables like we talked about, then it's like, well, you're good enough to manage everything else. So it's just that's the mental side that helps me, and we do have a lot of support around that, because you need it.
For sure.
And then with all the negative stuff, you just have to talk to friends, family, all the support around you, and it definitely makes it easier in terms of who you're listening to.
Before we wrap it up, Super Rugby 2024 is starting in like literally a couple of days. Are you excited for the season? Got any hopes that you like want to work on for the season? Like, what are you feeling for the 2024 season?
I'm really excited about the season. I think we've had about 2 or 3 years now where the rules haven't changed a lot.
Got some new law changes coming in.
But a lot of it is, I guess, reinforcement of what we've done last year. So we brought in the bunker rule, which means that the game's going to be faster. We're just going to give a quick yellow card. We still have the 20-minute red card, which I think is a great part of the game. We're going to try and speed up the scrums, the line-outs, making sure that players don't go down injured if they're not injured. So all these things that we've sort of done over the last few years, we're just going to do again. And it means that the players are used to it, we're used to it, the fans are used to it. So I'm excited. I think we're going to be able to hit the ground running. And for me personally, I just want to be really accurate in the decisions I make, help the flow of the game, create the spectacle. And with my team, just do a really good job. And for me, it's about building. I know I've been to 2 World Cups, but I want to get better. Like I can still get better, and focused on hopefully going to the one in Australia in 2027. And I've got 4 years to be able to do that and learn from every game. So for me, it's exciting, and I think I'm really looking forward to running out this weekend and hopefully doing a great job so the players can enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other competitions that you're locked in for throughout the year? Like, are there any competitions that you're excited for?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Super Rugby being the biggest. I'll always try and do at least one club rugby game here in Auckland.
Oh, really?
So I'll try. Yeah, I always try and do that when we have a weekend off, if we can get a weekend free.
Maybe I'll come and do my refereeing with you for that club game.
You can. You can do my review. You give me a kips. Oh, there's the sprinklers turning on. Look, there's going to be Rugby Championship and the July window, and then the Autumn Internationals too, and NBC. So there's heaps of rugby, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice. That's really all we have time for. I'm really grateful that you took the time out of your day to come and chat to me. I'm really grateful, and this has been like such a cool chat. I've learnt a lot about you and the game and refereeing, and it's just been really cool. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Wonderful. All done. Thanks, guys.